from a low life, but now people call me the king. Tearing it up with every lyric that I bring to the table. Because I'm willing and able, I'm in more homes than Comcast cable. I got the skill that'll rattle your brain. I'm a threat like Saddam Hussein, everybody know my name. Joe Habib's a top soldier, kid they should've told you, you really need to pack a lunch. My words hit hard just like a Tyson punch, so give me a chance, I bet you I can make you dance. Show me your girl, I bet you I get in her pants. I'm breaking egos and money is what I'm stacking. Joe Habib on the mic, you know I'm down for action. Shout out to Make Beats Sir and the Beat Smith and the whole Rope a Dope radio crew. Yeah.
For this year, maybe the next year I go to BBC and we can talk and meet all of them. For this year, maybe the next year I go to BBC and we can talk and meet all of them. For this year, maybe the next year I go to BBC and we can talk and meet all of them.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. What's going on? The first one was so good that we got to do a part two for this one. And I can guarantee you that this one will not be as heated. If anybody wants to come on, we will have rational discussions. And I had a conversation with D-Style, and I think the problem that we had was when I said to him, "Why are you getting so emotional?" I think that kind of set the whole thing off, because it's basically insinuating that I'm, criticizing him and maybe, in a not direct way, but in an indirect way. It's almost like me questioning his manhood by saying that he's acting emotional. So we had a discussion offline about that, and I can understand why that got heated like that. And I think by me saying that kind of threw things into a whirlwind, and we had a good discussion offline about that. So the question is, will Beeb answer the $1 million question, right? Will Beeb answer the $1 million question? If Canelo, which he's never done in his career, but I'm going to put this hypothetical question, I'm going to make it reality, I guess. I'm going to make something reality that, I feel as though isn't reality, in my opinion. I don't think there is such a great odds that he will say this, because he's never done it in the past. And I played it for you earlier that said he would talk to PBC to make the fight. But if he demands it be on PBC, if he demands it be on DAZN, or if he demands it to be on PBC, my answer to the question is not a simple yes or no. My answer to the question will be, if DAZN offers Canelo and David Benavidez the best offer, then yes, the fight should be on DAZN. But if Showtime offers Canelo and David Benavidez the best offer, then the fight should be on Showtime. So it's not a simple yes or no answer if the question is just strictly, if Canelo demands the fight be on DAZN, should it be on DAZN, regardless of whether there's a better offer on the table or not. That's just my opinion, right? So that's how I feel the question should have been framed, right? But if it's just a flat out, no matter what, should the fight be on DAZN, regardless of if there's better offers out there on the table, then no. And once again, right, I understand the whole A side, B side thing, but I also understand that there's such a thing called negotiations, right? And if you're of the belief that people who are in positions of power, right, should just automatically demand that everyone just succumb to their demands and requests without having an ability to negotiate back, right? Without having an ability to negotiate back, if that's your stance, that you don't believe in the free market economy where there's competition, where people can compete and other entities and multiple entities can make bids on things, right? If you think it's just one way and the B side has no ability to negotiate whatsoever, if you think that David Benavidez's team is not supposed to or doesn't have any ability to negotiate, counteroffer, or whatever the case may be, because technically David Benavidez and Canelo are not making the offers. The networks and the broadcasters are making the offers. So it's up to DAZN how much they want to offer for the fight, and it's up to Showtime how much they want to offer for the fight. It's not up to Canelo. It's up to DAZN and it's up to Showtime. It's not up to Canelo. It's not up to David Benavidez. And it's not up to Samson Lukowicz, because Samson Lukowicz is not putting up the money. He's not even the lead promoter, hasn't been the lead promoter for the last 3 or 4 David Benavidez's fights. It's been Tom Brown. And when Andrew Ruiz fought on DAZN, he was being represented by Tom Brown. So I don't think this is just a simple answer of yes, the fight should automatically be on DAZN no matter what. And once again, it's not up to Canelo where the fight's going to be on. It's up to DAZN and it's up to Showtime. Now, Canelo could have the offer presented to him, right? He could look at both offers from both networks. He can make a decision to say yes or no. But the fighters themselves are not making the offer. Listen, I always make this statement. This is the statement that I've always made in my life. I don't hold people to standards that I don't hold for myself, right? So I'm in a union. Every 3 years, we negotiate a contract, right? And we're not in the position of power because we're not the ones who are giving ourselves the checks. The people who we're negotiating with are giving us the checks. They're cutting us the money every week, right? They're in the position of power. We're not. But that doesn't mean that we don't negotiate back with the union, through the union, with the entity that we work for. I'm a municipal worker, and we bargain with the city every 3 years. There's been times when we've not had a new contract for 6 months, and we had to operate off of the old contract because we made demands, and there was always a compromise. Did we get everything we wanted? No, but more often than not, we got more than what was offered the first time around. So this whole thing that people who are not in the position of power can't negotiate and have requests for things is ridiculous. I'm just a guy with a local 22 jacket trying to make a living, man. That's what I do, right? I negotiate. I'm not in a position of power, but I still negotiate, right? And I vote on the contract every 3 years. That's what I do, right? So I don't understand this shut up and take it thing, because if you are managing and you are responsible for working out the deal for David Benavidez, and you are responsible for working out the deal for Canelo Alvarez, neither one of the people in charge is going to just say, shut up and take the deal. You would not be doing your job if you just took any old deal. If you're representing David Benavidez and there's an offer on the table for Showtime and there's an offer on the table for DAZN, and the Showtime offer is better than the offer that DAZN has put on the table, it would be your fiduciary responsibility as a representative of David Benavidez to advise him to take the Showtime deal if it's better. There's no way, ands, ifs, ors about it. Penny, I'm going to let you jump in, but then I'm going to take the floor back because I got some financial statistics here and I got some numbers I want to go over, but I'm going to let you jump in and you tell me where I'm fucking wrong here.
Hey Beebs, I've got a meeting in about 10 minutes, so I didn't have time to. I didn't have time to prepare a video
All right, that's fine.
Like what Checkmate does. His videos are good, by the way, although sometimes they're a bit one-sided. But anyways, I do like those videos. But Beebs, I think the point of being a free agent is that so you can go anywhere, and if you have a deal that's better than where the incumbent is, then you should go there. However, I do agree a little bit with what D-Style was saying, is that I think the zone has earned enough brownie points from Canelo where if they do, say, match Showtime's deal, and maybe if it's a little bit like, say, for example, Showtime offers, say, I don't know, I'm just putting out a figure out there, say 100 million, right? And the zone offers, say, 90. So it's 10 million less, right? Canelo, like, he may be inclined to take the DAZN deal because he's been with DAZN for a long time. And if that's the case, then maybe Benavidez has to go to DAZN because Canelo has gone across the road many times before. So why can't it go the other way? And Canelo's the A side, right? But I do agree with you. I think that in boxing, it's always the best deal that makes sense. It's always been that way, and it'll always be that way.
So would David Benavidez have a right if he has a better deal on the table from Showtime as opposed to DAZN? Would he be wrong to stick by his guns and say, I want the fight to be on Showtime because I'm getting more money if the fight's on Showtime? So it works both ways here is what I'm trying to say.
Beebs, there's already been a person who's done that, and he took the lesser deal per se, and he paid the price for it, and that was Deontay Wilder. Remember when
he really didn't take the lesser deal, and I'll tell you why. First of all, that whole situation with the 100 million,
120.
It was 100. It was 50. It was 50. Oh, excuse me, 120. It was 20 for Brazil, and it was 50 each for the Joshua fights. Mm-hmm. Those were flat fees, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, AJ was on a fight to fight with them, right? So AJ was not contracted to fight Deontay Wilder. So he was supposed to take that deal and in good faith just assume that Anthony Joshua was going to fight him those two times. What happened with that original $365 million deal with Canelo? They ended up rescinding on that, right? Because of
COVID. Because of COVID.
I don't know if it was because of COVID. It was because of numerous amount of reasons. They said that they wanted Canelo to fight specific fights that he didn't want to fight. They wanted him to fight these celebrity fights, whatever.
They wanted to fight Triple G.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, how could you sign a deal where you're making a commitment to a fight that the other guy is not making a commitment to? So if there's no contractual deal in place that, yes, Anthony Joshua has to fight me, because he's on a fight, he's still basically on a fight to fight with the first right of refusal, because you saw that the fight with Usyk was on Sky. Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to explain here is, even these DAZN deals, I'm going to read you a quote from Eddie Hearn, right? Because Canelo doesn't have the deal with DAZN. He has the deal with Eddie Hearn. He said, this was right before the Caleb Plant fight. This is what Eddie Hearn said. He's free to make the fights that he wants to make where he wants those fights to happen. Where he wants those fights to happen. So his deal with Eddie Hearn is with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn has an agreement with him that he's willing to put the fights on anywhere, whoever makes. And here's where else Eddie Hearn said before those negotiations. Okay, he said, whoever makes the highest offer, Canelo will take the fight, basically, because he's basically saying Fox could make a play for it. Anyone can make a play for it, right? So it's not like when you work for DAZN or you do deals with DAZN or you do a deal with Eddie Hearn, right, that every single fight has to be on DAZN, because it's not the case. DAZN has said themselves that they're willing to work with other networks, other fighters, sort of like what they're doing with Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. So the Zone and Eddie Hearn and Canelo have never made this hardline rule that we have to. They didn't do like Floyd Mayweather said, if you fight me, it has to be on Showtime. Eddie Hearn has never said that. He even said in this quote, the fight will be where Canelo wants it. That's what he said. And that fight ended up being on Showtime because Showtime had the better offer.
But Beaves, just going back to the Wilder fights. Yeah, he didn't take the Zone deal. But what I'm saying, where he lost financially, is in replacement of that, when he fought with Showtime, the 3 fights, I think it was with Ortiz and then maybe the 2 Fury Dominic fights. He didn't earn 120 million, not even close to that. So he lost.
He made 20. He made 20 million for the Brazil fight, right?
I don't know if it's that much. Brazil?
He made 20 million. Look it up. I can do that. I can show it for you. Wilder purse for Brazil. And this is when DAZN didn't have pay-per-view back then. These were flat rates.
By the way, I bought that pay-per-view, the Wilder Brazil fight. Seems a little high, 20 million for a Brazil fight. Brazil got knocked out already by AJ. I believe if it was like 10, 15 million, maybe 10.
This report says 10. I've heard other reports 20, so I don't know. It could be 10, could be 20.
It seems a little high for 20 million, man. Yeah. I think even Pacquiao's guarantee for Cotto was 20 million, and that was a huge pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is he didn't make 120 million. But even if he didn't fight AJ, he'd still make 120 million.
But once again, they guaranteed Canelo 365 million. And when he fought Rocky Fielding, what did he get? Well, let's look at Canelo's purse for Rocky Fielding, because that was right after he signed that deal, and he was supposed to get $33 million a fight. So watch this. Canelo's purse.
But this was pre-COVID, Joe, Beebs. Like
what? The Rocky Fielding fight was pre-COVID. Was pre-COVID.
I can't remember. Yeah. But Beebs, the reason why they rescinded on that contract is because of COVID, though. Like it was because.
No, that's not. They said because of the matchups. That's what they said. So.
But I can't believe you Beebs went for 7 hours 3 days ago.
I can't believe it either. I didn't realize it.
It's good, man.
It was
hey Beebs, have you been watching the All Access on Tank versus Ryan?
I have, yes.
I'm surprised they didn't go 4 episodes. It's only 2 episodes.
Yeah, they only did 2. They
should have went at least 3, man. Come on, give us 3 episodes. And have you seen the Ryan Garcia's interview with Stack and Matt Barnes?
No, I did not.
Yes, it's not bad. Ryan says that he can make 136 easy, and he says that the catch weight of 146 is no problem because he only walks around at 150.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I don't think it's going to be a problem. So, yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Who you got in that fight, Bibbs?
Ryan Garcia by unanimous decision.
Wow. I got Tank by KO. I think he's going to catch him. And I think Tank's probably going to take him to deep waters where Ryan hasn't been before. I think he's going to knock him out late. But in the stoppage or in the KO, I think Ryan will be up on the scorecards. But Tank will catch him.
That's what people are saying, but
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If Ryan wins the fight, right? If he wins, and if he wins the rematch also, and if both pay-per-views are successful, say the first fight does 750, and
so Canelo, not to cut you off, but when Canelo fought Rocky Fielding, he got $15 million. It says.
Okay, that's a big purse for that.
But that was after signing this $365 million deal for 11 fights. And he got $15 million for that fight.
That's not bad.
But it's not the fight. But it's not. But if you divide 365 into 11, right? It's not 33 million. So I'm guessing the other fights were supposed to compensate for that, but whatever. So this is what I'm trying to say is when you just say you're going to sign a $120 million deal, you don't know how that's going to be dispersed, especially if the other guy has not guaranteed that he will fight you if he hasn't signed to fight you. So unless I'm not going to take that deal unless I have in writing that I'm fighting this guy, because they already reneged on the Canelo deal. However you want to frame it, they reneged on it. Yeah. So I mean, what do you want me to say? So that's the thing.
Yeah. Hey, Beeb, sorry, my question: if Ryan Garcia wins both fights, say the first fight does 750, and then usually the rematch, the pay-per-views do well, especially if it's a big fight. Say it does 950, right? 950 to $1 million. Does that mean that Ryan Garcia will take over Canelo as the face of boxing?
Canelo Alvarez is the face of boxing until someone takes the throne from him.
Even if the rematch does 950 to $1 million buys, Beebs, and he wins the fight?
If Ryan Garcia wins the fight,
both fights,
right? Both. What do you mean both fights? Like if there's a rematch?
No, there is a rematch clause.
But Tank's probably gonna get locked up for a couple, like 6 months before that rematch. He's going back to court. He's going back to court in May. He pled guilty to the charges.
But yeah, I know. But BC may get off on a good behavior. Community. All
right. Once again, you guys throw these hypotheticals out there with all these ifs. You guys got more ifs than a spliff, right? That's like me saying, what if Alexander Usyk fights Tyson Fury with one arm tied behind his back? Who wins? Like you guys ask me these questions that I just don't. I don't envision Tank walking into that courtroom after pleading guilty to felonies with a rap sheet longer than my fucking. I don't even want to say, right? But here's the thing, man. I just don't envision this guy not doing some type of time. That's why they made sure the fight was in April.
Max 6 months, Beebs. Good behavior, 3 months.
Okay. So the rematch won't be
December.
till next year.
Okay. Well, the fighters these days, they don't fight.
Yeah.
Ryan will probably wait anyway. He didn't even fight. What's his name? That Filipino guy to fight. What's his name? Mercito Hesta. He was supposed to fight Mercito Hesta in December, but he didn't want to. Right. So he waited for the Tank fight, which is now. So he might just wait for the So Bibbs, what you're saying is you're saying if the rematch does 950,000 buys or $1 million, you're saying he won't take over Canelo as the face of boxing, even though Canelo is not doing 1 million
based off of one fight.
No, 2 fights.
If he does 1 million 2 times back to back, or 1 million combined.
750 in the first fight, 950 or millions in the rematch.
Will Ryan Garcia be the new face of boxing? If he does that,
you'd have to say yes.
He could make a run for it, but I don't think the fight does that. And I'll tell you why. Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant did 800,000 pay-per-view buys. This fight between Ryan and Tank, I'm gonna make a prediction.
I say 750.
I say 600,000.
Are you talking about because they increased the price by $10? Because it was supposed to be 75, right? It's now
it's going to be on DAZN and Showtime. And let me just run some numbers for you real quick, because I know you're a numbers guy because you work in the financial industry, right? So the first,
I have to go, man. I've got a meeting.
All right, go ahead. You can go. Go ahead. I'll let you go.
Thanks, dude.
So we're going to run some numbers about Canelo's pay-per-view on Showtime and Canelo's pay-per-view on DAZN. Okay? Because here's the situation. When Canelo fought Caleb Plant on Showtime, it did 800,000 pay-per-view buys, right? In the U.S. alone, right? And we already spoke about how the Canelo fight with Plant was also on in Australia. It was on Main Event TV, which is a pay-per-view service in Australia. It was on BT Sport in the United Kingdom, and it was on S Sport Plus in Turkey, right? Now, Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin, right, was on DAZN pay-per-view, the third fight. And worldwide, globally, it did 1 million pay-per-view buys, but in the United States, it did 600,000 pay-per-view buys, right? So if you had DAZN, I'm going to be very concerned. I'm going to give DAZN every benefit of the doubt. If you had DAZN, the pay-per-view was $65. If you didn't have DAZN, right, the pay-per-view was $85. So I'm going to be conservative here, and I'm going to give DAZN every benefit of the doubt. I'm even going to say that 300,000 of those pay-per-view buys in the United States cost $85. I'm going to round it off. We're going to round it off to 75 because we're going to assume half the people had DAZN, half the people didn't. I don't even know, but I'm just giving DAZN the benefit of the doubt here, right? So that's 700,000 between United States and Canada. I'll add another $100,000 in Canada, 100,000 people in Canada. So 700,000 people, right? 700,000 people at $75. That's 52,500,000, right? And then you add in another, well, I'm going to add in 800,000 actually between United States and Canada. I'm sorry. It'll be 800,000 pay-per-view buys, right? We'll say 600. We'll say like 600 in the United States and then maybe 300 in Canada. We're giving them every benefit of the doubt. So that's 800,000 times 75, which is $60 million. We'll say another 200,000 of that was in the UK, and the UK people paid $22.34. So between the United States and Canada, $60 million in revenue. We said we're just gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say half the people paid the 85 and half the people paid the 65. So we rounded it off to 75, right? So that's $60 million between the United States and Canada. And it's, we're going to add in another 4,468,000 from the UK. That's $64,468, right? That's globally, right? So when then you look at the pay-per-view buys on Showtime, right? Just in the United States alone, they did 64 million in the United States alone, right? That's just in the United States alone. So they basically did almost the same amount that DAZN did globally, right? In terms of revenue. So now we're going to be very conservative here. We're going to say another 100,000 bought the fight in Australia at $55, right? A pay-per-view. And then we're going to say another 100,000 bought the fight on BT Sport, right? At the 22.34. So we're being very conservative here because we can go higher than this, but we're being very conservative. We're actually not giving the benefit of the doubt to Showtime and BT Sport and Main Event, and we're giving every ounce of benefit of the doubt to DAZN. So if we were to factor all that in and we're lowballing and doing all this, then the fight on Showtime, BT Sport, and Main Event, which is, and then we're not even going to include the rights fee that TV Azteca paid for the fight. We're not even including them, and we're not even including S Sport Plus from Turkey. So we're being very conservative. So with United States, United Kingdom, and Australia, right? With those three countries, the fight generated $71,734,000. So that's $7,266,000 more for a fighter named Plant, who's not as well known as Triple G, right? Who never had a history. I know it's for undisputed. I get all that. First Mexican, whatever. But Plant's a so-called nobody. You guys said, who's Plant? But he generated more revenue on Showtime, $7,266,000 more than Canelo and Triple G did for a fight that was supposed to be way bigger than planned, right? So again, guys can say what you want about Showtime. I know Showtime's losing this, Showtime's nobody. They don't have the budget. They don't have this. They don't have that. I mean, DAZN is having their money problems as well too. But here's what you guys continue to not understand, right? DAZN can be losing money. Showtime can be having their financial problems. But Showtime is owned by Paramount Global, which has a total net worth of $58 billion. They're a publicly traded company, all right? Access Industries owns DAZN. Mr. Blatnik, Ukrainian entrepreneur, owns them. They're not traded publicly. I don't know how much they're worth, but I know they're probably worth in the billions. Paramount Global is the 5th largest media company in the world, not the United States, in the world, right? And, you know, Ring IQ made a great point saying Showtime's losing money. They're going out of, they're having problems. He doubts whether or not they're going to have boxing. It's a fair point. But here's the thing. When they merged with Paramount, right? It says Paramount Global is considering shutting down the Showtime streaming services, and they're considering replacing it over to its Paramount Plus server likely. All right. So the reason why not only Showtime, but HBO, a lot of regular channels, right? A lot of regular channels are having issues because there's a lot of cord cutting going on around there. Okay? The market is changing. Paramount Plus is an app. It's one of the most highly subscribed apps out right now, along with Netflix, HBO Max. So the game is changing, not just for Showtime, but for everybody, right? So this merger with Paramount Plus, right? This merger between CBS and Viacom has been a game changer, right? And for the right fight, just like they proved with Canelo Plant, right? Who's to say that they won't make a gigantic play for this Canelo Benavidez fight? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Showtime on its own, not doing well. DAZN on its own, supposedly has lost billions of dollars. But once again, what you guys aren't looking at is their parent companies that are worth billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars, right? That Blatnik guy, from what I understand, has money to burn, right? Paramount Global, they're involved in everything. They got money in various markets. They're involved in the entertainment parks as well, right? So they got money to burn. So to sit there and say that, you know, you're looking at the subsidiary company and looking at that and not looking at the parent company and how much the parent company is worth, just like with the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. Les Moonves of CBS had to step in to get that fight done. They went to the very top to get that done. Now, obviously, this isn't Pacquiao-Mayweather, but once again, to me, it's one of those fights where Showtime may just step it up like they stepped it up for the Plant fight. So is it possible that Showtime may be jumping out of boxing? It's possible. Is it possible that boxing gets shown on Paramount Plus, the app, and not on Showtime in the future? That's possible too. So, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. So this whole notion that I believe that this fight should just be on DAZN no matter what, if there's a better offer on the table, the answer to that question is no. But I also have said, and Eddie Hearn has said, and Canelo has said, that they're open for other offers. They're open for other offers. It's that simple. So the question that was asked originally was, should this fight be on DAZN if Canelo demands it? And again, this is a hypothetical that just really isn't realistic to me because once again, Canelo's own words is a free agent, and he said he'll fight anywhere. Eddie Hearn said that Canelo will fight anywhere. But if all of a sudden Canelo Alvarez turns into Floyd Mayweather overnight and demands that all his fights be on one network, like Floyd Mayweather did, which Canelo Alvarez never did, but if he decides that that's what he wants to do, and DAZN does offer the better deal, then yes, the fight should be on DAZN. But if Showtime offers the better deal for David Benavidez and for Canelo Alvarez, if the people who are representing David Benavidez have every right and have the fiduciary responsibility to make sure that David Benavidez gets the best deal possible for himself. And if you don't think that's right, then that's you. And then we have philosophical differences on how free market economy should work. I believe people should compete. I believe offers should be made, and it should go to the highest bidder. Canelo Alvarez and Eddie Hearn have both said that in the past. We will work with anyone. I've read you the quote from Eddie Hearn. This is the quote from Eddie Hearn. Let me pull up that whole article that with the interview from it was a boxing scene interview with Eddie Hearn before that Caleb Plant fight. All right? Give me a second. Let me pull that up. I'll tell you exactly what was said before that fight. If I could find that article, because I did a screenshot of the article. I'm going to find it real quick. I'm so sorry. Just bear with me, guys. If I could find this whole conversation, because I had a big conversation with this guy here on. Okay, here it is. Here's the article. So the title of this article is Making Canelo Plant. Hearn says this, making Canelo Plant not complicated. He says DAZN, and this is when Fox was involved in it, right? He says DAZN, Fox will make huge offers, right? So once again, they're not saying that any fight has to be on DAZN. This is Hearn saying this. He said making Canelo Plant will not be complicated. DAZN, Fox will make huge offers, right? That's what he said. That's what he said. Said, it's not complicated. It's the beauty of Canelo's decision to be a network free agent, right? Canelo is a network free agent. This is Hearn saying this. It's not complicated, Hearn said during a post-fight press conference early Sunday morning. This was after the Billy Joe Saunders fight. It's the beauty of Canelo's decision to be a network free agent. So it stops politics. It stops anything from getting in the way. The numbers on the DAZN were absolutely astronomical. They're going to have to, and they will make a huge offer for that fight on Fox. Fox will make a huge offer for that fight. DAZN will make a huge offer for that fight. But he's free to make the fights he wants to make where he wants those fights to happen. So for me, I think it's a very straightforward process. I think the process should start immediately, and I don't see any complications with his position. So Eddie Hearn, is saying they are free to talk and negotiate with any network. Never has it ever been said for any of Canelo's fights out of his mouth, out of Eddie Hearn's mouth, that he fights exclusively on the DAZN. It's never been said. That's why I had a hard time answering that hypothetical, because it's a hypothetical that has never been presented by them, either Canelo or Hearn. These are quotes from Eddie Hearn, who is a promoter of Canelo. Obviously, we have a 2-fight deal. It's been the most incredible experience. I think we've done a great job. We work very well together. Hopefully, we can continue the relationship for a long time. So the deal that he has with Eddie Hearn still allows him to choose where his fights will be. He is non-exclusive to DAZN. It just so happens that Bivol was a DAZN fighter, right? Golovkin was a DAZN fighter, right? John Ryder is basically, he's another kind of free agent, whatever. I think he's fought all over the place. I believe he's an Eddie Hearn fighter. He's another Eddie Hearn fighter too. So he could be on. He's a DAZN fighter if he wants to be too. So all these fighters that he's fought are basically Eddie Hearn promoted fighters, with the exception of Caleb Plant. And Showtime came up with the better offer, so the fight was on Showtime. Canelo made that decision. Okay, so this isn't me talking. So that's why I have a hard time answering a question. What if Canelo does this, does that, when he has never shown a history of doing that? That's why. These are quotes from Eddie Hearn. You know, he's free to make the fights he wants to make, where he wants those fights to happen. So for me, it's a very straightforward process. I think the process should start immediately. So he's loyal to Eddie Hearn without a question. More than likely, he will sign with Eddie Hearn again, in my opinion, which is only my opinion. But as I have said, that does not mean he is locked and tied down to DAZN. I've showed you that the fight with Showtime in the United States alone generated almost as much, just about the same amount of revenue that the fight on DAZN did. Globally, with Golovkin, who's a bigger name than Plant. More people know who Golovkin is than Plant. Canelo Golovkin did 1.3 pay-per-view buys on HBO and 1.1 in the rematch. And that's the United States. And then he goes and fights him on DAZN a third time, and they do 600,000. So if you go by the trends, they did 1-3, then it went 1-1, right? If it was on pay-per-view again in the United States, it probably would have done at least 900,000. 850 at the bottom end. But because it was on DAZN, no disrespect, it did 600,000. I'm sorry. I have nothing against DAZN. I subscribe to DAZN. They do not have the same footprint in the United States, right, that ESPN and Showtime do. They just don't. They have 4 million subscribers in North America, which is including Canada and Mexico. I would suspect that half those subscribers, if I'm being generous, 2.5 million to 3 million in the United States, right? I would say 2 million in the United States and millions in Canada, and maybe another million. Let's say 2.5 in the United States, 1 million in Canada, and 500,000 in Mexico, right? So, I mean, if you do the math, it's again, for the right fight, I think the money is going to be with Showtime. Now, if DAZN comes up with a monster offer for both fighters, if they come up with a monster offer for both fighters, and then David Benavidez still turns the deal down, or for whatever reason he's advised to turn the deal down, whatever the case may be, then that's on David Benavidez. That would be a bad move on David Benavidez's part. But if Showtime comes up with more money than DAZN, and David Benavidez can make more money fighting on Showtime than he can fight on DAZN, why would any of us criticize David Benavidez for trying to make the most money possible? Isn't that what we all do when we negotiate deals? I do that. I've already used the example of every 3 years with being in this union, when we negotiate, right, with the city. We're not in a position of power. We're not the ones with the money. We don't cut checks, right? But we negotiate in good faith for ourselves and for our brothers who are union members. So I'm not going to ask someone and hold someone to a standard that I don't hold for myself. That's it. So here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. If Canelo Alvarez fights David Benavidez, right? Showtime picks it up, right? Main events in Australia will pick it up. BT Sport or even Sky will pick it up in the UK, right? So when you factor in the rights fees from overseas, as well as the pay-per-view buys in the United States, right? I think it does bottom end a million pay-per-view buys in the United States. I think it would do at least 200,000 pay-per-view buys in the UK. I think it would do at least another 100,000 in Australia, right? I think Mexican TV, Azteca TV in Mexico will pay a substantial rights fee for the fight. I'm just being honest, and I'm looking at data. I'm looking at the data, right? And I'm just saying, I have a hard time picturing DAZN outbidding Showtime for this fight when everything's considered, because they didn't do it last time. Last time there was a PBC fighter involved, Showtime outbid them. Now, in fairness, they didn't have pay-per-view, but when they did have pay-per-view, and Canelo fought another established star in Gennady Golovkin, who was more established than Caleb Plant, right? Who's more established than Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant, Canelo Alvarez, in the United States alone, did roughly the same amount of revenue in the United States alone. They did 64 million. Globally, that fight on DAZN did 64,458,000, right? That's globally. So if you can only if you're factoring in globally and you're only doing a couple $100,000 more in revenue, right? Then a fight with a relatively unknown guy, Caleb Plant, right? And then I already factored in the BT numbers, the Australian numbers, right? I went conservative here. And if you factor in all those other international broadcasters, that fight conservatively at least did $71 million against a guy who no one knows, right? I was shocked that fight did 800,000 pay-per-view buys because Canelo hasn't been on pay-per-view in the United States in a long time. It was a long time since he was on Showtime. Excuse me, Showtime in. It was a long time since he was on HBO, right? I think the last time he was on HBO was like 2018. Right? It's 2018. So I was surprised that fight did 800,000 pay-per-view buys. But now, given the data that I now have, right? Given the data that I now have, I think it's very possible that Showtime is going to be involved in this fight one way or the other. Right? That's what I think. And even Canelo has given us the possibility.
For this year, maybe next year I go to PBC and we can talk and
he's open. He's open to it.
For this year, maybe next year I go to PBC and
this isn't me.
We can talk and
this isn't me saying this. This isn't me saying this. It's not me saying this. This is him saying this. You know? Now I'm starting to sound redundant. I know you guys hate when I keep repeating myself, but, you know, you guys hate when I repeat myself, but, you know, it is what it is. These are quotes from Hearn. These are quotes from Hearn. So I'm being asked a hypothetical question that all the evidence has pointed to. Hearn said during a post-fight press conference early Sunday morning after the Billy Joe Saunders fight, "It's the beauty of Canelo's decision to be a network-free agent. So it stops politics. It stops anything from getting in the way. The numbers on DAZN tonight were absolutely astronomical. They're going to have to, and they will make a huge offer for that fight. Fox will also make a huge offer for that fight. I thought Fox was going to make an offer too, but instead of Fox, it was Showtime. But he's free to make the fights he wants to make where he wants those fights to happen. So for me, I think it's a very straightforward process. I think that process should start immediately. So again, show me anywhere where Canelo Alvarez all of a sudden turns into Floyd Mayweather and says, if you want to fight me, it has to be here. It has to be there. No, he's a network free agent. He can fight wherever he wants to fight. His loyalty is to Eddie Hearn, not to DAZN. That's what you guys are missing. So unless he does, 1 million pay-per-view buys on DAZN in the U.S. alone, then I don't know, man. I just don't think Canelo Benavidez on DAZN alone exclusively, globally, if it's only going to be on DAZN, I just don't think it does more money than if it was on Showtime, Sky or BT Sport, main events in Australia, and in Azteca as well, right? I just don't think by throwing all your eggs into one basket, you're limiting yourself financially to make the most amount of money possible. And again, I'm not worried about really what's going to happen 3, 4, 5 years down the road. I don't think Showtime's going to go out of business next year. That's just my opinion. Do I think they're going to be in the boxing business forever? Maybe, maybe not. But there's a possibility Paramount Plus will buy fights. They may do pay-per-views, right? So once again, the game is changing, right? It's changing. All these networks are taking a hit. That's why even Fox News, they have an app now. All these channels have apps now, right? That's why you have Paramount Plus, right? There's going to be some restructuring across the board, not just from Showtime, but from everybody. HBO, they got HBO Max. And they got that. They show Marvel movies now. As soon as the Marvel movies get out of the theaters, they go right to HBO Max. You got Disney Plus. You got ESPN Plus. I got my Roku. I got my Roku in my room, my study, a TV in my study. I got all apps on that. I got a Roku stick. I got a cable box in my den. My Roku stick's got all apps on it. All apps. Crackle, Netflix, Paramount Plus, AMC Plus. Doesn't matter. I mean, everyone's restructuring right now. But what I'm saying is, for the right fight, I think they'll spend the money. They can have a shit year, but then just all of a sudden for this one, just like what they're doing with this Garcia fight. DAZN's losing money too. I mean, they're not making money. Everyone's having their issues, but once again, like I said, these parent companies that are funding these little subsidiary companies, right? They got billions and tens of billions of dollars. It's that simple. It's that simple. So I think I pretty much clarified my position. You can agree, you can disagree. You can say, you can have your own opinion on it. But I think I provided some pretty hard, heavy evidence here. If I'm being honest, in the United States, Showtime and ESPN have a larger footprint than DAZN does. And then the argument could be, well, a lot of those subscribers on Showtime, they don't watch boxing. Okay, but 800,000 of them bought pay-per-views the last time Canelo fought on their network. 800,000 against a guy who nobody supposedly knew, who was a nobody, who did nothing. That's what you guys said. And he did 800,000 pay-per-view buys with that guy in the United States. Whereas a more established guy who he fought twice already, who had two good fights with, who he has done 1.3 and 1.1 million pay-per-view buys in the United States with prior, right? He only did 600,000 pay-per-view buys in the United States on DAZN. I mean, I'm just looking at numbers. I'm not making this shit up. He did 1 million pay-per-view buys globally, but 600,000 of those pay-per-view buys were in the United States. Right? Rest was in Canada, Australia, and the UK. Right? The numbers don't lie, guys. I'm not making shit up. That simple. Caleb Plant was a supposed nobody, right? Who nobody cared about. All he had was a belt. But Triple G, who's a Hall of Famer, he's a legend, who's definitely going to be a first balloter, right? Had 2 legendary fights with him. They had a history together, right? Does 600,000 in the United States against that guy. But yet on Showtime against the so-called nobody, he does 800,000. He generates $64 million in the United States alone, right? And then he generates $64,400,000 globally on DAZN, right? And on top of that Showtime, we have the BT Sport where it was being broadcast, and we have main events in Australia, right? And then we have the rights free from Azteca Television in Mexico, right? It's that simple. I mean, I believe you still have that Azteca TV rights when the DAZN with the Golovkin fight. I'm sure they paid a rights fee for that fight as well. But when you factor in the pay-per-view from BT Sport, and Australia, their pay-per-views are about $55, right? So even if they were to do the bare minimum of 100,000 on Australia, right? That's still, and then they do 100,000 on BT Sport, right? $22 a pop. It's about $71 million, guys. $71 million against a guy who nobody cares about in Caleb Plant, right? And then globally against a superstar like Gennady Golovkin, $64,468,000 globally against Gennady Golovkin. 1 million pay-per-view buys globally is not a bad number. But for that fight and for the expectations for that fight with that opponent, right? With that opponent, right? That's an underachievement. Doing 800,000 pay-per-view buys against a guy like Caleb Plant, who's not popular, who's not a mainstream guy, right? Who nobody knows in the United States, right? That's pretty damn near fucking impressive, especially Canelo Alvarez, who hasn't been on pay-per-view in the United States for about, at that time, for about almost 3 years, right? I didn't think that fight, I thought that fight was going to do about 500,000. I thought that fight was going to do 500,000. I was shocked when it did 800,000. If you asked me all these questions 2 years ago, right? I'd be like, oh yeah, this fight has to be on DAZN. I mean, but not now, not given the information that I have now. No. Not seeing Cool Boy Stephen Fulton, right? Going over and fighting Inoue. Not seeing Ryan and Tank fighting each other on a co-promotion by DAZN and like there's too much happening now, bro. Now we got the merger with Paramount Global, right? Bought up, it merged with CBS. Now they've become the 5th largest media company in the world. They're back now by Paramount Global, right? So I mean, the game has changed, bro. The game has changed. Showtime and HBO are losing subscribers because everybody is cutting the cord now. People are using apps. That's why it's smart that they have this merger, right? They have this merger with Viacom, right? Because now they have the Paramount Plus app, which is one of the most subscribed apps in the United States, right? Everyone is going to the apps now. You got ESPN Plus. Showtime has their app. Fox has an app. Everyone's got an app now. The game is changing across the board. And I root for DAZN. I don't have any hate. I just spent $224 about 3 weeks ago, and I renewed my yearly membership. For me, it's better if the fight's on DAZN. Guess why? Because then I only pay $65. If it's on Showtime, I'm going to have to pay $85. But it's not about me. I'm not the one who's getting in the ring. I'm not the one who's negotiating for a fight. I'm being objective here. And I can't, in good faith, make an argument for David Benavidez to turn down a fight if an offer is made by Showtime that is bigger than DAZN. I can't tell him to not try to fight to get the best deal for himself. I can't tell the person that is representing him to not do that. And then you guys keep talking about how Sampson's saying that the fight can't happen on DAZN. Okay. But where has there ever been a fucking quote where Canelo has said the fight can't be on Showtime? Where has that ever happened? Explain to me when that's happened. I just read you the quotes where it says out of Eddie Hearn's own fucking mouth, Canelo is a network free agent. What are we missing here? What are we missing here? So because Samson Lukowitz says something, automatically the fight is dead? Tom Brown calls the shots over there when it comes to promoting fights. He's the lead promoter, not Samson Lukowitz. And I like Samson Lukowitz, but he doesn't have the pull. He doesn't have the final say. Go back and listen to that interview with Dave Duenas and G Funky, where he said, I'm not the man with the money. It's up to the network. He's giving his opinion. I'm sure Stephen Fulton was told, don't go over there. But he said, fuck it, I want the fight. I want to fight that guy in UA. Fighter makes the final decision. Enough with this fucking bullshit. You all got wrapped up into this fucking Mayweather. I'm the A side. I only fight on Showtime. And you want everyone to act like him. Canelo is not Mayweather. He's not that guy. He doesn't do that. Well, what if he does? He won't. He hasn't. What if Usyk fights Tyson Fury with one arm tied behind his back? What would happen? I mean, you're asking me these fucking questions that I just can't fathom happening. The answer to the question is the fight should be on the network that makes the highest offer and pays the fighters the most money. That's where the fucking fight should be. In any business, that's how it works. So no, David Benavidez should not take less money if there's less money offered on DAZN in comparison to Showtime. Abso-fucking-lutely not. No. I would not advise David Benavidez to do that. I would advise him to do what Andy Ruiz did to Anthony Joshua. I'm not fighting in the UK. I'm not fighting for 10 million. I want more. And what happened? The fight went to Saudi, right? The fight went to Saudi, and he got more, ended up getting $5 more million. Okay? No one's saying Canelo's not the face of boxing. No one's saying Canelo don't call the shots. But again, Canelo don't move like Mayweather. Billy Joe Saunders, I'm not fighting unless I get a bigger ring. Fuck it. Give him a bigger ring. I'll knock his ass out anyway. This is who Canelo Alvarez is. He's not this prima donna diva that you guys are making him out to be. That's not who he is. He's not that guy. He's not. He's not. He's not that guy. He's not that guy. The zone doesn't call the shots. Canelo calls the shots. The beauty of Canelo's decision is he's a network free agent. That's what Eddie Hearn has said. That's what Eddie Reynoso has said. That's what Canelo Alvarez has said. It's that simple. It's that simple. And if you don't believe me, you can hear it from the man himself.
What this year? Maybe next year I go to PBC and we can talk.
I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this. Where does it say I'm only fighting on the zone?
What this year? Maybe next year I go to PBC and we can talk What this year? Maybe next year I go to PBC and we can talk
I mean, am I lying? What did I is that my voice? Is that my voice? Are these my quotes? Are these my fucking quotes? It's not complicated, Hearn said during a post-fight press conference early Sunday morning, and this was after the Billy Joe Saunders fight. It's the beauty of Canelo's decision to be a network-free agent. So it stops the politics. It stops anything from getting in the way. The numbers on the zone were absolutely astronomical. They're going to have to, and they will make a huge offer for that fight. Fox will also make a huge offer. Fox didn't make a huge offer. It was Showtime that made the huge offer. So that's the thing. You want this to be something it's not. You guys want to turn this into Pacquiao Mayweather all over again. You want to play the who's ducking game. I know this gets clicks. I know this makes everyone create drama, and they love this. Oh, Canelo's ducking. Benavidez is ducking. Blah, blah, blah. And again, you're trying to make this something it's not, because guess what? Canelo Alvarez is not Floyd Mayweather, and David Benavidez is far and away not Manny Pacquiao. So you're trying to do this like you always do. This is what you tribal dudes do on here. You have to pick a side, and you have to pit one side against the other, and it has to be PBC versus the zone, has to be Showtime, it has to be Showtime versus Eddie Hearn, it has to be Eddie Hearn versus Al Heyman. Again, Canelo is not playing your games. He's not buying into this game that you want him to play into. This is what you want. You want to live your life vicariously through another man. That's your fucking problem, not mine. That is not my problem. That is not my fucking problem. You want to create this drama? Then go ahead. But guess what? The boxing world's going to move on without you. They're going to move along without you, bro. It's that simple. It's that simple. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen, bro. So after hearing Canelo Alvarez say that, and after reading those quotes from Eddie Hearn, and after seeing Canelo Alvarez fight a PBC fighter on Showtime, after seeing Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, a fight that I never believed would ever happen, that I never ever believed would be on Showtime and DAZN, right? I never ever ever believed that Stephen Fulton would travel to Japan and fight Naomi Inoue, right? Again, my stance has changed on all this. I'm given the information that's been presented to me, looking at these numbers, right? The game's changed for me, bro. Right? Game's changed for me. So I don't have a dog in the hunt, bro. I don't have a dog in the hunt. I don't. I absolutely do not have a dog in the hunt. Absolutely do not have a dog in the hunt. I don't. Right? I don't have a dog in the hunt whatsoever. I have DAZN. I'm a DAZN subscriber. I will be buying the pay-per-view this week, and I will be buying it on DAZN, right? I will be hitting this. You know what? Can I buy it now? I'll buy it right in front of you if I can. Look, this is the DAZN app right here. Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis. I'm gonna hit the buy. I'm gonna hit the buy button right now. Here, we're buying this fight live on air. We're gonna buy this fight on DAZN. Right? One tap buy. Here we go. We're buying this fight right now. See how shitty this fucking app is? It takes 10 years for the purchase to get made. But here we go. You're all set. Your purchase was successful. Enjoy the fight. Here we go. So I have no dog in the race. I just bought the fight. I hate PBC. Look, I hate PBC, but I understand logic, and I saw what Canelo did on Showtime pay-per-view, and I saw what Gennady Golovkin, Canelo Alvarez 3 did on DAZN, and I was surprised on both ends. So we're ready to rock here. Just bought the pay-per-view on DAZN. Right? That simple. Saved myself a couple bucks and I bought it on DAZN. Right? That simple. So I don't have a dog in the race, man. I don't have a dog in the race. So it's that simple. It's that simple. I was hoping someone would come on and we could have a discussion. I wasn't gonna try and trigger anyone. I was gonna just have a logical discussion. But it is what it is. All right, guys. I think that's about it. We're not going to go 7 hours like we did last time. Beeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Peace out. Have a great day, everybody.